I want to get on to Nicolas Jackson. I know we spoke about him last week, but every week that goes by, I get more and more impressed with him. So we'll talk about him in a second. But just finally, I think, you know, the recruitment, there's been question marks over. You know, Chelsea fans have had question marks. But I think largely that they do need, you know, we need to say, you know, they've got it right. And especially with Cole Palmer, that is one that no one saw coming, that everyone was like, 40 million for Cole Palmer. He's played about 3 games. But they've got that right. They saw something there. Are you surprised, Jace, that Pep didn't see something? Or do you think he did, but he wasn't going to step in his way and stop him from leaving?
I don't think that we can heap too much criticism on City, because the problem that they had, and we've had it ourselves with the likes of De Bruyne and Salah, is that at that particular moment in time, there wasn't a space for him. There is no way the Cole Palmer we're looking at now, we would have seen if he stayed at City.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have been given the opportunities. And he wanted to go. Credit to him, by the way. That's a bold move, going from Manchester into London to go and play for a club like that. Bold move. And the boy clearly has handled everything that's come with that. I'm not sure we can beat City up too much. It's a moment in time. On reflection now, in hindsight's a wonderful thing, I think they'll look and go,
uh-oh.
No one saw it. No one's... This boy is so special. Yeah. He is so special. And he will get better and better and better. The problem that we might have is that he's going to attract attention.
Sign him up. Sign him up for another...
But he's got 9 years, right? 9 years. Get him out of that...
Yeah, just another 10.
But, so he will now have aspirations, understandably and rightly so. He says, if you're one of the best players in the world, or one of the best players in Europe, you should be winning tournaments, should be winning Champions League, Premier Leagues, whatever it might be. Yeah. So we need to carry his expectations and his ability with us to win things.
Yeah, and like you said, it's credit to the recruitment team. And I feel like, as Chelsea fans, we did have an issue with how things were dealt. And I feel like it was more about the outgoings than it was about the incomings. Yeah. It was more about how it was handled. And as football fans, were sentimental, right? And when you've got Mason Mount who got the assist in the Champions League final, and he's a Chelsea boy, and we kind of let him go, and it was unceremonious to an extent. Conor Gallagher, who kind of messed around a little bit, it didn't feel great. But we do have to give credit where credit is due. Yeah. This recruitment team have got it spot on with a lot of these signings, and even the signings they didn't make, the signings they wanted, Omarodion at Porto. You look at John Duran, who we also wanted. They know what they are doing. Yeah.
They've got their fingers on the pulse.
They know what they're doing.
You can't get everyone right.
Yeah.
You're going to make... Not every signing's going to work. Yeah. But I've got to say, the recruitment so far, I'm with you, no one's criticising Chelsea anymore. No. Why? Because we're doing all right.
Which also means that one of the players that a lot of people were criticising last season, and I don't know why, because I think his numbers were good, I think it was the chances he missed, but this link-up between Cole Palmer and Nicolas Jackson, Kweku, it's giving Son and Kane, it's giving Lampard Drogba, like the disallowed goal, I think just summed up where they are at mentally with each other so perfectly that when Jackson drops deep and gets the ball, the brilliant turn on the halfway line, and he knew exactly where Cole Palmer was going to be, and his top of his knee was offside, but that is where their link-up is so good.
Yeah, well, you can accuse me of underhyping Cole Palmer, and I do that because he's getting enough hype already. Yeah. I'm going to overhype Nicolas Jackson because he's not getting enough credit for what he does. The goal against Newcastle, granted, the ball from Cole Palmer was incredible. Pedro Neto does well to get a pass from the defender. But the finish from Nicolas Jackson was so assured. Last season, he might take a touch. Last season, he might miss that. This season, bang, straight in. He deserves so much credit because I feel like, similar to the Caicedo thing, when you don't make a great start at your club, you get tarnished with a brush of you're not good enough. But if you're watching Nicolas Jackson week in, week out, you're looking at one of the best strikers in the Premier League. And I think he deserves that credit because he's playing at that level. Not just the goals, but the way he brings his teammates into play. This allowed Cole Palmer goal. The ball was brilliant. He did it. He's done it in multiple games this season. And when I'm looking at him as a footballer right now, I'm seeing somebody who's developing. Somebody who was a left winger, is now playing down the middle, has got the confidence of his manager and his teammates. And yeah, right now, in terms of best strikers in the Premier League, we're going top 5, maybe even top 3.
I would back you up and probably say, I think top 2, I think Erling Haaland and Ollie Watkins. I think that third spot is up for grabs. I mean, you mentioned Isak, which I think is you know, I love Alexander Isak, I love watching him play, but I think there's a case there that Nicolas Jackson, given if we're thinking about how long he's been a centre-forward, how long he's spent at Chelsea, everything that's gone on last season, and I think we can make a case that Jackson is top 3 strikers in the Premier League.
OK, so here's another thing that needs to be mentioned. When he signed for Chelsea, he'd only played 1 season of top-flight football. So we're talking about a player that's still very much learning his trade. He's young, he's raw, there is more to come. There are still very much rough edges. his hold-up play has developed. There was a goal that we scored against Luton last season that Palmer scored where he dinks his way through. Oh. The pass from Jackson. So that link-up is there. It's been there. We'll see more of it. Cole Palmer played slightly on the left against Newcastle. He tends to operate more on the right, but he played on that left-hand side where the goal comes from Neto. But that run from deep, the link-up play where Jackson knows he's on his way, that will only get better. That link-up and that move. Unbelievably, in the 90 minutes, Palmer didn't find Jackson once. Which, if someone had told me, if you'd sat there, Liv, and said to me, I'd have called you a liar, right? I would have done, because it's inconceivable to think that they didn't link up. But the fact we're still having this conversation is that linking up, we all automatically think about passes, but you can actually occupy space when someone drops and someone goes in. That is telepathy that doesn't come quickly. You've got to work on it. Frank Lampard and Drogba had that. But it's developing. There's still more to come from Jackson. Jackson, I think, there is so much more in terms of his hold-up play. He had Dan Burn and Cher on toast at the weekend. His hold-up play, the movement. There's still more to come. You're right about his finishing, by the way, because that finish was a nice, solid, good, solid contact.
Clinical.
But comfortable in what you're doing in a one-touch finish.
And I think that's the difference. You know, you look at this, I suppose we spoke about the A team and the B team, but the Nkunku, João Felix, and both of them want to come and occupy the same space. Like, Jackson knows that that's Cole Palmer's space, but Cole Palmer knows that if Jackson wants to go into his space, he goes into Jackson's space, and that's where they work so perfectly.
And the game slows down as well when you become more comfortable in your environment. I remember when Liverpool signed Luis Suarez, and he was great, right, when they signed him from Ajax, but he wasn't an elite finisher. I remember seeing him miss a lot of chances, and then after a season and a half, the game started to slow down and he became an elite finisher. I'm not saying that Nicolas Jackson's going to get to that 13, 14 Luis Suarez level where he was one of the best players we have ever seen in the Premier League, but the game does slow down the more you become comfortable with it. And I do think that with Nicolas Jackson, with how he's developing, with the players around him, with the confidence of his manager, he's only going to get better. Bear in mind, his statistics are without penalties. Cole Palmer's never coming off penalties.
No, never.
Nicolas Jackson scored 14 goals without pens. And that's good going in the Premier League. Give him pens, he probably gets to 20. And so I'm seeing a player that is developing at a rapid level and is only going to reach the highest of the heights. And when you talk about hyping players, I will hype Nicolas Jackson because I've seen the truth.
Will you hype him as much as Kalidou Koulibaly has hyped him, though? Because in an interview, I think with Ben Jacobs, who was on the show last week, he has said that Nicolas Jackson will one day win the Ballon d'Or.
Right. Yeah, let's slow down a little bit, right?
Take it easy.
We can say Cole Palmer can one day. I would put money on Cole Palmer one day winning the Ballon d'Or. Nicolas Jackson, I'm not so sure about.
So, the thing about Nicolas Jackson is he does things that you think when he receives the ball, he's still very rough. There's a lot of edges to him that I think he can smooth, which we've seen already in his time. He's been at Stamford Bridge. I don't know. You can't be doing that.
I've actually made Jason lost for words, by the way. He's like, I don't know.
That's not fair. Yeah. It's not fair. It's not fair on Cole Palmer. Because right now, Cole Palmer's Chelsea's best player. The plaudits are great, and we're all watching a young player still develop into what is probably an area that Chelsea over the years have really failed. You think about under the Roman, right? How many genuine number 9s do we have? Drogba, Crespo, Costa. I mean, Torres, but name them, right? And look how many we signed in that time. It's a tough position. It's a really tough position. But I remember when Darwin Núñez signed for Liverpool, and everyone's hyping him. You look at the journey the pair of them had. They've been at both clubs exactly the same amount of time. No one talks about Darwin Núñez now. No one.
What I will say is, the Ballon d'Or thing is absolutely ridiculous because it's circumstantial. Like, over the last 15, 16 years, there's only been 5, 6 players won Ballon d'Or. Kaká, who's one of the greatest players of all time. Ronaldo, who's Ronaldo. Messi, Benzema, Modric, and now Rodri. These are players that are all-time legends. To say that you think that Nicolas Jackson, after a quick run season...
Sorry, the more I say it...
I don't mean to laugh at it, but, like, it's circumstantial.
Slow down, gang.
I didn't say it. It didn't come from me. It didn't come from me.
I know. It's just a bit ridiculous. I'm not saying that he shouldn't strive for that, not saying that he shouldn't be ambitious, but we saw Vinicius Jr. have an incredible season last year and scored a winning goal in the Champions League final, didn't win it. We saw Erling Haaland break the Premier League goal-scoring record, win the treble, including the Champions League, and he didn't win it. So it's difficult to say right now Nicolas Jackson's going to win it. He's a great striker, but slow your roll.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, okay, sorry. It wasn't me that said it. It was Kalidou Koulibaly, just to say.